Girl, we have to talk about this lawsuit that Dawn Richard just hit P. Diddy with. Because honestly, I'm shook. Dawn, if you don't know, used to be signed to Diddy back in the day. She was on Bad Boy, part of that girl group Danity Kane, which Diddy put together on making the band 3. Then she even joined his group Dirty Money. It's wild, right? I've actually done a whole documentary on Danity Kane and Dirty Money. It's super detailed, but trust me, it's worth watching if you have time. Now, we all know Diddy put those girls through it. Aubrey O'Day, especially, has never held back about what she went through. But Dawn, she's always been a little more careful with her words. And get this, there's a reason for that. Diddy only let her out of her contract under the condition that she didn't talk bad about him. Can you imagine? Like, I'll let you go, but you better stay quiet. And she did. She was like, okay, you gave me a shot, so I'll keep my mouth shut. But, girl, let me tell you, Dawn has slipped up before. She once let it out that Diddy wasn't exactly Mr. Nice Guy behind the scenes. The way she told it, it almost sounded like a joke. But honey, it was serious. Picture this. She and her bandmate were headed to rehearsal for Saturday Night Live in New York, right? And they didn't even know they had rehearsals that day. So they get to Sir Studios and Puff just loses it on them. I mean, he spazzed. He hit them with his classic line, "Y'all don't want it," like some Jedi mind trick, trying to make them think they were the problem after they'd been working nonstop. At one point, Dawn was like, "Why you talking so loud?" And things escalated. She even threw her purse down and was like, "You want to go? Let's go." A full-on chess battle, girl. Can you imagine the tension in that room? Now, here's why this is important. In this lawsuit, Dawn claims that Diddy would constantly berate her and the other girls, calling them out of their names, using the B word, and even going in on their looks. Like, can we just take a moment to process that? Not to be a hater, but have y'all heard about the time Dawn almost had a showdown with Diddy? It got so wild that his bodyguards locked her up in his Bentley for over 2 hours. Yes, 2 hours. She was literally screaming with no way to escape, but luckily she had her phone. So she called her dad, who drove all the way to New York, demanding she be released. And get this, when he confronted Diddy, the man actually had the nerve to tell him, "Think about your family. Think about your daughter's career." Can you believe it? Dawn was terrified for her family's safety. Diddy straight up told her not to call her dad unless she was in the hospital. The nerve. These weren't just empty words either. Dawn was genuinely fearful. And that was just one of the many crazy things Diddy did. You know what, girls? Dawn accused him of depriving her of food and sleep, constantly making her work at his beck and call without any compensation. It's honestly heartbreaking to think about, but when you remember how he ran making the band, you start to see the pattern. It was all just a way to condition those girls to accept this kind of trash treatment. Diddy basically programmed them to believe that enduring this kind of abuse was the only way to succeed in the industry. And Dawn, she fell right into the trap, like so many others. Things really hit a breaking point when Dawn was in Dirty Money. Diddy was always high, staying up all night, and demanding that she and her groupmate, Keena, come to the studio at all hours. And listen, they were trapped there for days, like 4 days straight. No breaks, no food, no sleep. Anytime Dawn tried to leave, Diddy would hit her with a, "Where the fuck are you going? We've got an album to make." And he didn't stop there. He'd make threats, bragging about making people disappear. The man was truly out here, trying to starve Dawn, threaten her, and not even pay her what she was owed. Girl, let's talk about money. Diddy allegedly owes Dawn $1.2 million in royalties and another $335,000 from touring. Not to mention, she never saw a dime from promoting Ciroc or the Diddy Beats campaign. On top of all that, Dawn accused him of straight up harassment. She says Diddy once told her to strip down to her underwear, called her the B word, and threw the nastiest insults at her, saying she was ugly, lazy, and too skinny. And he didn't do this behind closed doors. Oh no. He humiliated her in front of friends, producers, and even his bodyguards. And as if that wasn't enough, Dawn says she knew about Diddy's infamous freak parties. He'd have these wild parties while she was working in the studio, inviting men and women to get high and, well, you know what went down. But the creepiest part? Diddy would try things with her too. One time, while she was undressing, he groped her, claiming he was just showing the stylist where he wanted her bra straps. Like, really? He even smacked her butt, complaining that she was too skinny. Oh, and get this. Around Christmas, he tried to pressure her into getting a boob job, saying, "You're an A cup, I'm thinking a D." Can you imagine? She was just in total shock at how bold he was with his nasty behavior. Girl, let me tell you the tea. So, apparently, she saw firsthand how Diddy was treating his ex-girlfriend, Cassie. We all know Cassie already sued him for that disgusting behavior, and there are receipts showing how bad it got. But sis, Dawn didn't just hear about it. She saw it happen with her own eyes. Picture this. Diddy comes storming into the kitchen, screaming at Cassie, calling her the B word, and basically flipping out because she didn't do something right. He legit threw a hot skillet of eggs at her. She fell to the ground, and if that wasn't bad enough, he dragged her upstairs. Dawn tried to step in, but her girl Kina was like, "Don't do it. We gotta get out of here. Diddy is dangerous." And girl, that wasn't even the worst part. The next day, Diddy called Dawn and Kina to the studio, locked them in, dimmed the lights, and gave them this creepy warning not to talk about what happened. He had the audacity to say it was just a lover's argument and that no one was hurt. Excuse me? He even went so far as to threaten them, saying, "People end up missing," basically letting them know what was up if they spoke out. Dawn stayed quiet. But she saw Diddy putting his hands on Cassie multiple times after that. He treated her like she wasn't even human. Disgusting. Oh, and wait until you hear this. At a dinner party in front of everybody, we're talking Jimmy Iovine, Usher, Ne-Yo, Diddy straight up punched Cassie in the stomach. Like, she was crying in pain and his assistant Capricorn Clark had to take her out of the restaurant. And guess what? Everyone just kept socializing like nothing happened. Are you serious? That just shows you how much power Diddy had over people. Folks were too scared to stand up to him. I mean, you can bet there were a lot of people who saw how Cassie was being treated, but no one had the guts to intervene. And it doesn't stop there, girl. Dawn also spilled that Kim Porter was seen leaving Diddy's studio all bruised up and crying, with visible marks on her face and lips. Diddy was out here hosting these wild, drug-fueled parties where he'd traffic young women, some of them possibly underage, and have his guests doing unspeakable things while these women were intoxicated. And get this, Diddy even had cops at these parties, just to flex how far his influence stretched. He literally had the police in his back pocket. That's how he got away with all this mess, using them as protection, and probably even blackmailing folks. Dawn witnessed all this, and girl, she was terrified. Absolutely terrified. So girls, don't be a stranger. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our next video. You won't want to miss it. Trust me, it's going to be a wild ride.